There are other important matters that the FM did not mention in her speech. For example, she did not mention defense at all, as if the Chinese had vacated occupied Indian territory. She did not mention that defense expenditure in 2021-22 will see no rise. It is flat at rupees 3,47,088 crore, almost the same as the rupees 3,43,822 crore in the current year. The FM gave out a mind-boggling figure of rupees 2,23,846 crore for health, a breathtaking rise from the BE of the current year of rupees 94,452 crore. As I had warned, it was a conjurer's trick. She added the one-time cost of vaccination, rupees 35,000 crore, and, mark this, and the Finance Commission grants amounting to rupees 49,214 crore. She also included the allocations to the Department of Water and Sanitation. Shorn of these add-ons, the allocations for health were rupees 72,934 crore in 2020-21 and rupees 79,602 crore in 21-22. Given inflation, the increase is practically nil. However, on page 10 of the budget at a glance, the two numbers are very different. They are rupees 82,445 crore and rupees 74,602 crore, which means a reduction in expenditure from the level in the current year. What kind of additional health infrastructure can be built with this parsimonious allocation? Hence, on the two non-negotiables that the Congress party had listed on 28th January at the press conference, namely defense expenditure and healthcare expenditure, the government has miserably failed the people of this country. The fiscal numbers show that the fiscal situation is in a mess. The revenue deficit, 7.5%, and the fiscal deficit, 9.5% in the current year, have exceeded every prediction, including the government's prediction. In 2021-22, the government estimates it will borrow about rupees 3.42 lakh crore less, but nobody is willing to believe the government. The borrowing number has been understated by assuming that there will be disinvestment revenues of rupees 1.75 lakh crore. The record of this government on disinvestment is poor. The government has also assumed that tax revenues will increase by 15%, another questionable assumption. The revenue deficit, 5.1%, and fiscal deficit 6.8% numbers for 21-22 will send alarm signals to the rest of the world, especially the investors and international lenders. Their apprehensions should have been allayed by laying out a credible fiscal correction path year by year until the year when the fiscal deficit will be 3% or less. Nothing of that sort was attempted by the FM. On the contrary, her target was 4.5% by 2025-26. Investors and lenders will bristle. There was a huge expectation that there will be a significant increase in government expenditure to offset sluggish private investment and private consumption. The numbers show the total government expenditure will see a paltry rise from rupees 34 lakh 50,000 crore to rupees 34 lakh 83,000 crore, an increase of barely 33,000 crore. The farm sector has been shortchanged. The budget allocation for agriculture and allied activities has been reduced, I repeat, reduced from 1,54,775 crore in the BE of the current year to rupees 1,48,301 crore in the BE of the next year. Of total expenditure, the proportion has been reduced, I repeat, reduced from 5.1% to 4.3%. The budget allocation for market intervention scheme and price support scheme has been slashed from 2,000 crore rupees to 1,501 crore rupees. The budget allocation for PM Kisan Samman Nidhi has been reduced from 75,000 crore rupees to 65,000 crore rupees. MSMEs were dismissed in one sentence, an allocation of 15,700 crore. This is like providing a fistful of votes to a hungry elephant. Nothing was mentioned about providing liberal, low-interest loans, working capital, or moratorium. Nothing will be done to revive closed units or to recover the millions of jobs that were lost. The FM seems to be unaware that thousands of MSMEs, especially micro and small units, have been closed permanently. A meager sum of rupees 20,000 crore has been set apart for recapitalization of public sector banks when the requirement is several times more. At the same time, the government intends to privatize 2 PSBs. The intent of the government is clear. Let the PSBs bleed slowly so that they can all be privatized in the short term. Let us see the reaction of the public to this unconcealed desire to sell off all public sector banks. The tax reliefs and the tweaking of provisions of the tax laws completely bypassed the tax-paying working class and the tax-paying middle class. Each one of the measures announced by the FM will benefit only the taxpayers among the richer classes. There was no cut in GST rates. The mess of multiple rates remains. The saga of protectionism continues. Customs duties have been increased on a number of items in the wrong belief that a stiffer dose of protectionism will help Indian industry. As expected, the finance minister has paid special attention to election-bound states. She announced large capital outlays, let me repeat that word, outlays, for Kerala, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, and Assam. People are not fools. They know that the proposals are only outlays and the actual expenditure will happen only after the schemes are approved and over a period of several years, depending upon the pace of implementation. On the 10-point test that we had suggested on 28 January, the budget fails on points 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. It barely passes on point 5. The FM had promised a budget like never before. Her mandate was to present an annual statement of revenue and expenditure for 21-22. What she did, however, was to estimate expenditure over 2 years, or 3 years, or 4 years, and in one case, over 5 years. She made a reference to the Honorable Prime Minister 14 times and to the farmers 11 times. A good 40 minutes before she read paragraph 141 of her speech, Bloomberg put out the fiscal deficit and RD numbers for 2020-21. Since the CBI and Enforcement Directorate are underworked, maybe this matter should be referred to them. The budget was a letdown like never before. It was not a budget like never before. It was a letdown like never before. The budget, like the previous one, will unravel sooner than you think. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. इससे पहले कि हम आपके सवाल लें, आदरणीय चिदम्बरम साहब ने जो कहा है, whatever he said, I'll just give you a very few lines summary in Hindi of that. आदरणीय मित्रों, मोदी सरकार का ये बजट, अगर उसका एक शब्द में सार, जैसा चिदम्बरम साहब ने कहा, कहें तो इस बजट का नाम है धोखेबाज बजट। ये बजट का सार है धोखा, ये धोखे पर आधारित है। और जैसा उन्होंने विनिवेश के बारे में चर्चा करते हुए कहा, इसके बारे में केवल 2 लाइन में कहा जा सकता है कि बेच खाएंगे सब कुछ और छोड़ेंगे नहीं अब कुछ। ये है इस बजट का सार। इस बजट ने गरीब को धोखा दिया, नौकरी पेशा लोगों को धोखा दिया, मजदूर, किसान, छोटे उद्योग को धोखा दिया और उन सांसदों को भी धोखा दिया जो वित्त मंत्री के बजटीय भाषण को सुन रहे थे। जो चीजें देश की सुरक्षा और अस्मिता के लिए आवश्यक थी, उनकी चर्चा तक वित्त मंत्री ने नहीं की। उदाहरण के तौर पर आपने देश की राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा से जुड़े डिफेंस बजट के बारे में कहा। डिफेंस बजट में एक फूटी कौड़ी भी नहीं बढ़ाई गई। ऐसे समय में जब चीन हमारी सरजमी पर कब्जा किए है, रक्षा बजट की चर्चा तक ना करना इस देश की सरकार की प्राथमिकता या उसकी कमी की ओर इशारा करता है। स्वास्थ्य, जो दूसरा सबसे महत्वपूर्ण पहलू कोरोना काल में है, वो भी धोखे पर आधारित है। और उसके आंकड़े चिदम्बरम साहब ने दिए कि अगर फाइनेंस कमीशन और कॉस्ट ऑफ वैक्सीनेशन को निकाल दिया जाए तो यहां तक कि ड्रिंकिंग वाटर और सैनिटेशन का बजट भी स्वास्थ्य के अंदर जोड़कर एक आंकड़ों की फेल जादूगर की मायावी जादूगरी पेश करने का एक फेल कोशिश की गई। जिस प्रकार से राजकोषीय घाटा और वित्तीय घाटा लगभग 9.5-10% तक पहुंच गया है, यह निवेशकों के लिए और इसकी देश की अर्थव्यवस्था के लिए खतरे की एक बड़ी घंटी है। सरकारी खर्चे में 1 पैसे की बढ़ोतरी ना करना, जिससे अर्थव्यवस्था और रोजगार दोनों उत्पन्न होते, ये अपने आप में इस सरकार की मिसप्लेस प्रायोरिटीज को दिखाता है। सबसे बड़ा धोखा खेती के साथ किया गया। खेती का बजट लगभग 6% काट दिया गया। मार्केट इंटरवेंशन स्कीम को 2000 करोड़ से 1500 करोड़ कर दिया गया। और पीएम किसान योजना, जिसकी बार बार चर्चा की जाती है, उसमें 13% की कटौती कर दी गई। लघु और छोटे उद्योगों को बड़ा झटका देते हुए मात्र 15,700 करोड़ की घोषणा हुई। ये ऐसे ही है जैसे आपने फरमाया कि एक भूखे हाथी को एक घास की मुट्ठी उसके पेट की आग बुझाने के लिए दे दी जाए। सभी सरकारी बैंकों पर, जो इस देश के गरीब की राहत का आधार हैं, उन पर तालाबंदी करने की ओर एक और कदम अग्रसर किया गया। नौकरी पेशा और मध्यम वर्ग के लोगों के साथ बड़ा धोखा हुआ। एक फूटी कौड़ी की राहत नहीं मिली। जो भी इसमें प्रोविजंस दिए गए वो केवल चंद अमीरों की मदद करेंगे। जैसा आपने फरमाया कि यह बजट हर पायदान पर औंधे मुंह गिरा है और इस बजट का एक शब्द में सार है धोखा, डिसेप्शन। दैट इज व्हाट दिस बजट इज। वी विल रिक्वेस्ट यू टू आस्क क्वेश्चंस। नहीं, आदरणीय चिदम्बरम साहब ने यह कहा कि 40 मिनट तक बजट पेश करने के बाद भी राजकोषीय घाटा और वित्तीय घाटा, यह पैरा 141 पर आया। आप ये सोचिए कि जब वित्तीय घाटा बढ़कर 10% के करीब हो जाए, 9.6%, यह अपने आप में दिखाता है कि अर्थव्यवस्था की हालत कितनी पतली है। अब अगर वित्त मंत्री 141 नंबर पैरा तक राजकोषीय घाटा और वित्तीय घाटा भी छुपाने का एक कुत्सित प्रयास करें, तो एक साधारण शब्द में और एक व्यंग्यात्मक शैली में आदरणीय चिदम्बरम साहब ने कहा कि शायद इसे छिपाने के पीछे आजकल ईडी और सीबीआई के पास कम काम है उनको ये जांच का विषय है, उनको दे देना चाहिए।
Yeah. See, paragraph 141 gives the FD and RD numbers. 40 minutes before she read paragraph 141, Bloomberg had already put out the numbers. That's the point. How?
It's a breach of privilege.
I don't know. I'm asking you. Ask the question, how?
You are being finance minister, you should tell us, isn't it a breach of privilege?
Bloomberg did not put out the numbers when I was finance minister.
We'll go with. Yes, ma'am.
So there were several announcements that were made by the finance minister as far as roads are concerned, about trains are concerned, especially for election-going states like West Bengal, Assam, and Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Do you think the budget was used as a plan to pitch or make an electoral pitch to who the voters?
The voters are not fools, as I said. Budget. I challenge the government to show me one line entry in the expenditure budget providing 1 rupee for these programs. It will not be there because, first of all, they have to give a proposal. It has to go through several stages of approval. The scheme has to be approved, and only then money will be allocated. These are outlays. These are intentions. People know that. I mean, for example, an overbridge, a road rail overbridge is being built in my constituency for the last 10 years. It must have been announced sometime. But these outlays that she has announced, road from X to Y in Tamil Nadu to Kerala, is not going to happen before the month of May. Not 1 rupee will be spent before the month of May. There has to be a scheme, there has to be a proposal, it has to be approved by the Expenditure Finance Committee, money has to be allocated, Cabinet has to approve it, and then land acquisition will start. I mean, not 1 rupee will be spent. Let the states know that not 1 rupee out of the many programs that she announced will be spent in this year, that is 21-22.
Thank you. I'll come to you, ma'am.
When I come to your defense budget, point number.
Yes.
Where you say it is the same. I don't know whether you had the pleasure of listening to the expenditure secretary explain in the post-budget speech, after the FM speech. He said that there is a 19%, so there are 3 components. One is pension, one is the salaries, and the other is the capital expenditure. According to him, it is the highest ever of 19% in the last 15 years.
You see, you can always take one figure and give it a twist. If the printed documents were available, I can show you the printed document. Now take, for example, the budget at a glance. Now, I don't know if I can download it here.
I have it.
The budget at a glance. Now look at page 10 of the budget at a glance. Can you connect me? Just take budget at a glance, page 10. I've got the budget at a glance, but it won't download here. Page 10, yeah, turn it on. Take it. No, page 10. It'll come. Now come to page 12 of 19. Now against defense, pension is the first item. Defense, the numbers are, revised estimates for 2021 is 34,3822, 3,43,822 crore. Budget estimates for 21-22 is 3,47,088 crore. These are the numbers. That's an increase of 43 to 47 is 4,000 crore. 3,43,822 crore to 3,47,088 crore. Unless these numbers are wrongly printed.
He was specifically clarified out of the 3,47,000 that you're talking about. He says that there are 3 components.
I know that.
And out of those 3 components, one component is which is basically the expenditure.
Yes.
He says there has been an increase of 19%.
But that's not the point. Total defense expenditure is only increasing by 4,000 crore. They are showing a sharp reduction in pension. How can that happen? I don't know. We'll see at the end of the year. But total defense expenditure is being increased by only 4,000 crore. Go back in the last 15 years. Has ever defense expenditure been increased by only 4,000 crore? The finance minister should at least print enough copies for MPs, even if it's not available to the general public. How do you debate based upon your instrument and the internet, which is dependent upon the Commissioner of Police's pleasure, isn't it?
Sir, on the AICC, Finance Minister said that it's just restructuring of the basic custom duty, and she also said that the end consumer is not going to be impacted in an adverse way by whatever has been done. How do you see that? And do you think, because government is saying that you need more money, to address the issues of our agrarian economy, do you think by having this, government will actually be able to address those issues?
Next time you fill your two-wheeler or car with either petrol or diesel, tell yourself, I am not affected, I am a consumer. The finance minister has told me, tank.
But or it might be lesser in certain cases. I don't know what her
Yeah, that's,
dynamics were.
but you should ask her that question when she was addressing a press conference. How does paying to less, how does more become less?
Because you said they're doing adjustments to the whole revenue structure.
Just
On petrol and diesel, no adjustment has been made. Added 2 rupees 50 and 4 rupees to the price that is prevailing today, which is the highest ever, isn't it? 95 and 85 on petrol and diesel. Tell that to the farmer who fills his tractor with diesel. Tell that to the average, and he fills it with.
Organizations of big industry saying that this budget will give us trust on infrastructure. How do you see?
Ask and say.
A lot of analysts are saying that a lot of trust on infrastructure, the impact of it.
Increase the FDI from 49 to 74%. That kind of capital is not available within the country. But I remember the day in 1997 when the BJP voted 20% FDI in insurance. 20% FDI in insurance. They voted down the bill on that ground. And Prime Minister Gujral had to withdraw the bill at that time. Today, they have done a full circle and they are allowing 74% FDI in insurance, which is okay in terms of capital. But they are also going to privatize one of the 4 nationalized insurance companies. I'd like to see what the reaction of the people of this country is. I'd like to see what the reaction of the employees of the insurance companies is. Infrastructure, yes. If spending takes place on roads and ports, big business will benefit. So they will get contracts, there will be demand for steel, there will be demand for electricity. But that's good. We are not saying you should not spend on infrastructure. You should spend on infrastructure. We welcome spending on infrastructure. But at the same time, you must understand that after 8 quarters of a slowdown and 4 quarters of a pandemic year, after 12 quarters, the kind of emphasis you give to infrastructure, equal emphasis should have been given to the poor, the working class, the migrant, the agricultural labor, the daily worker. That is completely missing in this budget. This budget may have had a mind.
ये सरकार की तरफ से कहा गया कि स्वामीनाथन आयोग की रिपोर्ट जो यूपीए सरकार पे कई साल लगती रही वो हमने लागू करने का ऐलान किया है और अब किसानों को आंदोलन अपना खत्म कर देना चाहिए।
आदरणीय साथी, या तो वित्त मंत्री और सरकार झूठ बोल रही है या सुप्रीम कोर्ट में उनका शपथ पत्र। सुप्रीम पढ़ें तो वो कहते हैं कि लगभग 135 स्वामीनाथन कमीशन की सिफारिशों में से, अगर मुझे सही याद है, 85 से अधिक सिफारिशें यूपीए और उनको न्यूनतम समर्थन मूल्य यानी एमएसपी, सरकारी खरीद, पब्लिक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सिस्टम, राशन वितरण प्रणाली पर बैठी है और ना कुछ उजवानी जमा खर्च की बजाय
Outlay is 7% relative to the last year's budget. Out of this, rupees 35,000 crore only for the vaccine. Do you think the government has been realistic given the COVID?
Spent. If it will cost eventually more than 35,000 crore, Congress party believes that money must be spent. We have no quarrel. Everybody should get the vaccine free. Majority, the overwhelming majority of the people of this country must get the vaccine free is the Congress party's position. My accusation is you include that one-time expenditure on vaccination and then say my health infrastructure, health expenditure budget is going up. You have to compare apples and apples, oranges and oranges. Similarly, you can't lug in the Finance Commission's grants and then show this number of 2,23,000. Look at page 37 of the Finance Minister's speech. Take out these add-ons and the comparison is what I told you. A very small increase.
Down of internet by Delhi police, you mentioned Delhi police. I just wanted to ask you, how do you respond to the fact that one of the journalists was arrested by the Delhi police and several cases have been put against him, Randeep Singh? Apart from that, many senior journalists, FIRs have been registered against them.
Who knows? For asking the question, you, and for answering the question, I may be arrested tomorrow. It is anti-national, and FIRs will be filed in 5 states. These are condemnable actions. It shows a government living in mortal fear. We condemn it. We condemn these anti-farmer, anti-journalist, anti-media actions taken by the government through the police. We condemn it in the strongest terms. We condemn the FIRs against Shashi Tharoor, Randeep Singh, Mrinal Pandey. I mean, what is this country coming to? In another country, 4,400 supporters of the opposition leader have been arrested. What is the difference between that country and India then?
I'll come to you, sir. He's been waiting for some time.
In the budget speech, the FM says that MSP is now 1.5 times of the cost of production. Do you think this can make any impact on the pharma industry?
MSP, total expenditure on MSP will increase year after year after year because the MSP itself is being increased and the procurement is steady. Ask me this question, 3 years from later, the number will be more than this year's number. Ask this question 7 years later, the number will be more than the number 3 years. I mean, these are natural. What is the first budget presented by R.K. Shanmugam Chetty? The first budget was about 197 crore. And he apologized to the country for a fiscal deficit of about 23 crore or something. But down the line, every number will increase. What did the finance minister make a big song and dance about the number increasing? 3 years down the line, the number will be more. 5 years down the line, number will be even more.
सर 24 साल बाद 5% सेंसेक्स बढ़ा है उसको लेकर कैसे देख रहे हैं बजट
आदरणीय मित्र, आंकड़ों और वास्तविकता में जो अंतर है वो जो लोग शेयर बाजार में निवेश करते हैं उनमें और इस देश के गरीब किसान, गरीब अनुसूचित जाति और पिछड़े वर्गों के लोग, नौकरी पेशा और मध्यम वर्ग के लोग, छोटे छोटे लघु और मध्यम उद्योग चलाने वाले लोग, वो इस देश के बजट का असली सूचकांक है। वो निर्णय करेंगे कि बजट सही है या गलत। और जैसा चिदम्बरम साहब ने कहा, इस बजट का एक शब्द का सार है, ये धोखेबाज बजट है।
Can I answer that question? Take the economic survey. There's a whole chapter devoted to the stock market numbers. That is the answer to your question. The stock market rises and falls for very different considerations. What has that got to do with the working class of this country, with the poor of this country? There's a whole chapter.
Clearance for insurance.
No, on insurance, on privatizing public, not require a law.
The Financial Affairs Secretary has said it will require legislative.
So I have not applied my mind to that. So let us see what law they bring. What law they bring. I have not.
Is open to the idea of privatization of public sector banks?
No, who said so? In fact, no objection to private sector banks, also sector banking. What this government is attempting to do is to completely sell off the public sector banks so that there will be only private sector banks and foreign banks. There will be no role for public sector banks. Now, if there is no public sector banks, how will the government or the next finance minister, whoever the finance minister is, have the opportunity to announce that agricultural public sector banks, how will you say that we will give education loans? If there is no public sector banks, how will you say that we will have a RIDF fund? The point is, public sector banks, whatever their strengths and weaknesses, are the pivot around which a number of programs are evolved and implemented in this country. If there are weaknesses in the public sector bank, strengthen the banks, remove the weaknesses. The answer is not wholesale privatization of public sector banks. They've started with 2, and I don't know, they've got, I think, 2 more budgets. By the time they finish the term, they may have sold off all public sector banks. Let us see what the reaction of the people of this country to selling public sector banks. Selling a public sector bank is very different from allowing a private sector bank to function and grow. Both can be there. For example, we have got SAIL, a steel company. We've got private steel companies. Both can compete with each other. But what if tomorrow the government proposes that Steel Authority of India will be sold to the Tatas or to the Jindals? That's the question. Congress party's position is very clear. We are not against the private sector. Compete against each other.
Let the public decide, let the public house in order. He will go on winning elections. How does India and half the
That doesn't seem to be a question. That seems to be a criticism of the Congress party. I can turn back and say half the people are not informed because the media does not do its job. So what's the point of mutual recrimination? The point is Mr. Narendra Modi and his party they lost elections in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Goa, Manipur, Karnataka. They stole the government from us in Goa, Manipur, and Karnataka and Madhya Pradesh. Therefore, future.
And the point I'm making is that Mr. Modi doesn't care about criticism.
But you should ask Mr. Modi. You should ask Mr. Modi. If you get a chance, care about the people.
She said the demonstration at the Tikri border that the farmers and the tractors can't come or march any forward. This is the way the government is trying to ward them off already.
See, this government is indeed concerned about the welfare of the farmers, which is why it unleashes the police on the farmers. It is concerned about the media, which is why it's showing their concern by this way. So you should be very happy in the media that they are showing their concern by filing FIRs against leading journalists. The farmers, according to the finance minister, should be happy that they have unleashed the police and the criminal justice system against the farmers. That's the way of showing concern for the farmers.
Sir, the government is using finance bill to amend SEBI Act, LIC Act,
There may not have been 1 or 2 aberrations. The matter is pending in the Supreme Court. One, they saved the Aadhaar Act. The Supreme Court judgment said, well, all right, this is wrong, but nevertheless we are upholding the Aadhaar Act. But the matter is again coming up in some other cases. This finance bill also will be challenged on that ground, that you're using the finance bill to amend non-financial laws which are not covered under the money bill provision. By using the money bill provision, they're denying the Rajya Sabha its rights to debate and vote. They're denying the Rashtrapati the right to refer it back to the House. So I think there are serious transgressions of the Constitution by using the money bill route to pass all and sundry laws. But the matter will, I'm confident, will be settled by the Supreme Court sooner than later.
So how would you rate the budget, sir, out of 10?
I told you, on the two non-negotiables, they have miserably failed the people: defense expenditure and healthcare expenditure. On the 10-point test that we said on 28th of January, they failed on 9 points. Why don't you take the 10 points and see what they have done? They only barely pass on point number 5.